All right, let's do a little discussion here. What do you guys think? How like this? Just tell me what you think, right? How long do you think it's gonna take Putin to actually take Ukraine, right? So with all the information we have right now, we know that they surrounded the capital, right? And then what they did is they bombed the other places, and there's a lot of refugees coming out of Ukraine. And if we do, a sort of a demographics analysis on those refugees, we know that rich people were already gone before the first strike, right? Because, there are conspiracy theories saying that the U.S. actually knows about the bombing way before. So basically, the FBI and the CIA probably know this way beforehand. This is why they closed out the shorting window for the currency the night before, and then they reopen it after pre-market ends. And also, with information within Ukraine, we know that the outskirts of the borders are really the inskirts and outskirts of the borders are sort of like in a tricky situation. Things are hard to get in, and things are kind of like depending on how you're gonna get out. It's also hard to get out. And then, the European Union countries are funneling weapons through one channel, through Poland, into Ukraine. And then the other side of the Ukraine is just completely dead because you can't go in and out, right? But the tricky part is this war has been going on since 2014. So it's been there for 8 years. Okay, this is like one of the bigger military operations, and on the Russia side, there's actually a lot of soldiers lost during the process. We just never see on the media because US media was really busy fighting against Trump or doing whatever, we're doing with the presidency or whatever. And then there are a lot of global phenomenon or there are a lot of global issues the media will never cover because this is a part of the media scandal, whatever you call that, to control the panic of the market. So if you look at the entire timeline, we know the objective of why Russia decided to do this, right? Because they're just like a pissed off child trying to say, hey, we don't like the fact that you guys are sort of coercing or helping, because Ukraine on the international stage or on the more post-Soviet Union stage, especially Ukraine is one of the bigger countries that got separated when Soviet Union got dissolved, and then with like the formation of NATO and all these other countries, they're sort of their position is always less than neutral. And their position is always, I'm leaning towards joining the EU. I'm leaning towards to the Western power. So in terms of how Putin was thinking is, essentially what really happens there is Putin is afraid that Ukraine join the NATO or join EU. Therefore, the internal balance there will be broken. There was a balance before, like around this year, because Zelensky, which is the president of Ukraine, sort of came out and say, we sort of are thinking about joining NATO, and because all of there are some nuclear weapon conundrum or skates or whatever we don't want to talk about here because it related to some sensitive information and it related to a lot of just like very intricate political maneuvers. This is a finance channel, so we're just gonna say what really is going to affect, a finance world. So essentially, what you need to know is the Russian economy has been sort of in a crippling state for the last 8 years because the country itself has to support a ongoing war against Ukraine or with Ukraine, whatever you call that, right? Because some people believe that they have to be in a constant stage of war in order for the Western power to sort of stay out of it. But because Putin decided to do an attack and because Zelensky refused to take his call or do whatever, the politicians do their own thing, they have their own ego, and then they pitch against each other. And then, for Ukraine, it's like, it's just like a very intricate situation because there's no way that the UN is actually going to deploy troops inside of Ukraine. It's too complicated than that. So what the EU countries and what America would do, America I think will stay militarily neutral, But a lot of those weapons are coming into Ukraine from EU is actually from America. So you have like this entire situation going on. And then the question here is, how long do you think Putin's gonna last, right? It's already been 8 years. And then now it's sort of like started doing this accelerated attack, right? So how long do you think it's gonna last? A month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? The economy in Russia is crippling right now. It is absolutely horrifying, okay? And then Putin only have 2 outside capital supporters, right? We all know who they are. And because of sanction values, it sort of increased their currency value. What is that? So that part I haven't think about it throughoutly. But we can talk about this on Patreon or whatever. If you guys leave a comment below, we can talk about all the other countries that are sort of on the sidelines but will benefit indirectly from this. In terms of direct benefit, we know that US dollar is going to increase, right? We're going to have a stronger dollar. And we know that Powell said, interest hike is still on the rise. Why? Because inflation is not going anywhere. And you should not listen to Goldman Sachs analysts saying, hey, they're going to step on the paddle a little bit and stop it a little bit because war is coming. First of all, Fed has nothing to do with war. No matter what happened during the war, even during the Vietnam War, they still do whatever they do they think is right for them to control inflation and to make sure that employment is correct or employment is good, right? So we know interest hike is going to hike. So what you should do, again, we're not financial advisors, we do not give financial advices. What is a good idea to do, or what we are doing is, look at all these inverse bond price ETFs. That means when a bond yield goes up, especially on the 20-year, on the further side of the bond yield, those ETFs are going to go up. And if you take on leverage on that, good for you, right? And another thing is, we know that Russia is one of the biggest oil and natural gas producing country. Ukraine and Russia is sort of composed of 10% of total global production. But the estimate is actually more than 10%. Because you have those invisible pipelines, and they also do some under-table dealings. Therefore, you will see a further supply shock on the oil and natural gas supply chain. And then, as we all know, oil is just doing on the high rise. We are holding long contracts anyways, and when it reaches our target, we're just going to dump all of it. But natural gas is very different. Why is natural gas very different? Because the main objective of a lot of Asian countries is to make sure that natural gas prices stay lower. So if you trade futures, you will know that the sort of targeted price line is about $3.82. Okay, on the international exchange. So right now it's about $4. But what is interesting is, because this year's volatility, it indicated that there's a possibility of that thing actually go to $6. So, and what is more interesting is, natural gas, Russia produced majority of EU's natural gas, right? So, I mean, the good thing is it's not winter anymore. If it's in the middle of the winter, then it's absolutely horrendous. The entire EU's economy is going to tank. So right now, by fighting Russia, the EU economy is actually sort of tumbling a little bit more. And then ultimately, who really benefit from this is the US economy, actually. So we should be lucky that we're in the US and we're trading US stocks. Other stocks, due to currency fluctuation, you will actually see a lot of volatility on the UK market and on the French market. So I think this is it for this video. It just sort of like, we're gonna discuss, we just put it at the seat of the understanding of how this war is proceeding into your mind. And sort of you should ask yourself, how long do you think this war is gonna last? And then within that time period, do you really think, so a lot of people are tumbling, basically they're selling short of Russian ETF over and over again. Right now, it went from $36 on the total market cap, sort of per price range, to $8, right? That's a huge amount. Basically, only less than what? It's about only 36 to 8. That's like 4 point something, right? There's only 25% left. It's literally 80% down. And historically speaking, when Russia launched those attacks, and when Russia do something like this, the market overreacts super quickly, right? And then swift sanction also comes. This is not the first time the US or other government decided, hey, you know, we're gonna swift sanction you. And there are historical records you can check that will happen like that. So for you to think is this a cheap price to buy for the long run, or is it time to do a spread? In the short term, it's still gonna stay flat, but in the long term, it's time to sort of start holding some of it or having leap options to navigate your portfolio. All right, we're gonna talk a little bit deeper on this on our Patreon chat if you guys have questions. But if you like this kind of video, smash a like button and subscribe. See you guys on the upside.